Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Hi, Robert Hartline here with The Decision, EO Nashville's podcast for entrepreneur organization here in Nashville, Tennessee. I am happy to introduce to you Mark Stoner. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Thanks for having me.
Man, it's weird. I just did this. We had another podcast before you, and I'm trying to get used to not having my co-host here.
Oh.
So Eric Jackson is usually with me, and he's navigating a death in his family. And I got to spend a little time with him yesterday, but I will tell you, it's different doing it alone.
Yeah, I'll be your co-host.
Yeah, there you go. You're my co-host. But this is awesome. I know we've got to spend a little time together in the past, and I'm excited to have you here because I see a lot of myself in you because you're like a serial entrepreneur. You like to do lots of things.
Yeah.
And you don't like to do one thing, do you?
It's hard. I like to do it until I don't like to do it, or until something else looks really good or flows with my, what's in line with me. And then I move. It's not like a plan to move, but it's just like a time to move or time to add. And so I'm real aware of opportunities. So I try to take advantage of the ones that make sense. The older I get, the more critical I am, and the more I've learned what to say yes to, what to say no to mostly. The more successful you get, the more magnetism you have around you. And I think a lot of things come at you, and you have to decide, is this good for me? Can I do it? Do I want to do it? I never look at it like, oh, am I going to make a lot of money at this? That's never in my decision making. I don't look at it that way. Maybe I should, but I'm like, do I want to do it, and can I do it? And then I'll figure out the money, or figure out, how to make it, a business. But that's kind of my thought process. So I never thought of myself as a serial entrepreneur, but as you get going down the journey and figure a few things out, good things can come.
What was the first entrepreneurial bug that bit you?
It was chimney sweeping. So I know why would that bite anybody? My dad was not I read an article that said sweep chimneys, make $55 an hour. Our house had caught on fire from a chimney fire a few years prior to that. So I knew the scariness of a chimney fire. My dad had bought some brushes, and we had done some chimney sweeping just as maintenance, And I read this article, and I was in college, and in the college class was an entrepreneurial, and it's make up a mock business, act like you're going to market it, act like you're going to, what's the money, just practice business. So in my search, I read this article about sweeping chimneys, make $55 an hour. Like, wow, that's a lot. It's 1985. I was like, that's a lot of money. Sweep 5 a week, make an extra $300 a week. I'm like, that was a lot of money. And the main thing I think I took away from it was it's enough money, but I could do this. And then here come the haters. My dad was the first one. Don't do it. Get a good job in the factory. There's already a guy sweeping chimneys. He's not making any money. Do something else. It was like, I'm 18 years old, and he was hoping for more. He was hoping that his son would turn out to be more than a chimney sweep. But I said, I think I can do it, Dad. I want to do it. And, it's rough, and I don't know anything. I had a top hat. I went door to door, knocking on the door, saying, hey, you want your chimney swept? I can't imagine that today, but enough people said, yeah, sure, come look at it. And I just literally door-to-doored it and had no money. And I remember buying the kit, and it arrived, and it was sitting. I remember now I'm in business, and all the equipment's sitting there in my apartment. I'm like, now what? There was no internet. There was nobody you could call that did this. Like, I read a book, and I'm like, man, I guess I got to get out and knock on doors. I have no money. How do I get people to want to use this service? And I just started it back in 1985, 86.
Wow.
That was first one.
What was the first day in the field knocking on your first set of doors? What was that feeling like?
Embarrassing. Just driving at a piece of crap truck. I would drive and I was like, oh, there's a chimney. Let me pull in there. Put my top hat on, put my black coat on, come to the door, knock, knock. Most of the people are like, what are you doing? I remember one time, it used to be my standard, even after I had people calling me, I'd knock on the door, and this kid one time looked at it, and he went to his mom and said, Mom, the magician's here. And she's like, we didn't hire a magician. And so, it was an experience. Most people liked it, but I didn't get in. I got into enough houses to look at it and figure out what am I doing? And then I remember the first time somebody called me on their own without me having to knock on their door. I'm like, whoa, this might be a real business. They really want me,
So when did you make the transition from solopreneur, where you know what, I can maybe scale this in a different way? Do I need to be knocking on doors? Like, what was that moment?
Well, the first step was always like the yellow pages. I did yellow pages and then got busier and busier. I was working in a factory part-time. I was in Indiana. I said, I think I'm made to do more than chimney sweeping. I'm made to do more than being in a van or in a factory. And so I decided, I was a drummer. So I moved to Nashville, Tennessee to play drums. Of course, everybody. And so I just did it part-time. And I always thought I was supposed to do something other than being a chimney sweep, right? I'm sure this is just temporary. And in fact, I was embarrassed to tell people I was a chimney sweep. I just always said I'm a musician. Of course, going to be something bigger than this. Well, music was fine. Drums are fine. Amazing life. Super fun. Really took a lot of time away from family. Went through a divorce. My kids didn't know me very well. That was really painful. Finally, there was just a time I'm like, what am I doing? I'm out here on the road, gone. I get home, I sweep chimneys and fix them. I'm just always so busy. And then a big life event happened. I fell 30 feet off of a roof working on a chimney by myself. And I hit the ground super hard, broke my ankles, fractures, cracked my chest plate. And I'm laying there. And in fact, the ladder and the safety gear fell off the roof with me and hit the homeowner. The homeowner was watching me. He's like, be careful. I'm like, I'm trying to be careful. And this safety piece slipped. It was on a metal roof way up high. And it all came down with me. And I came off and I hit the ground. And I was trying to stop myself, and there's a gutter, and I'm like, I'm going to grab that gutter, and there's a gutter guard in it. And I'm like, I can't get anything. It wouldn't have saved me anyway. And I hit the ground, and here comes the ladder, safety gear hit me and the homeowner. We both went to the hospital.
Wow.
And
how far along in your business was this?
This is embarrassing. That's my 17th year in business. I'd been in business 17 years. Still working by myself, one truck operation. And I hadn't realized I thought I had a business, but I had a job, the old E-Myth thing.
Wow.
It took me a long time. This is not like, I'm just so smart. I work harder and then figure. So then where it hit me was right then when I got hurt. I'm like, this is a sign I should be out of this. This is a sign I didn't get killed, but I should be doing something else, clearly. Well, this was the reality that my business was worth nothing. My one-man operation had no value in the marketplace. I couldn't believe it. Phone ringing off the hook. I had a great name, busy as I could be, making okay money, grossing $175,000 a year, probably taking home $50,000. I thought, well, it's worth $175,000. I thought it was worth 1 times gross. A lot of mistakes. The best offer I got was $10,000 from a local person. And I'm like, $10,000? I've been working 17 years for $10,000. Are you kidding me? Well, then I saw a chimney. I happened to read an article when I was on the couch recovering. I had 3 months recovery. I was totally broken. I read this article with this guy who had built a 10 truck company in Virginia Beach. I'm like, Virginia Beach is kind of similar to Nashville as far as size wise. I'm like, well, if he could build it, I could build it. I don't know how to build it. Tried to talk to him. He didn't really know me, talk to me. But the whole key to that was that's what a business looked like. What I had wasn't a business. Marketplace told me I didn't have a business. If I'm hurt, I'm out of money. And I just started following the guys who built multi-truck operations into a big business because he was scuba diving, he was skydiving, he was riding motorcycles.
He was like living a life?
Yeah, the life.
Yeah.
The real life. And so that started me on the journey, realizing what a business looked like and what it didn't look like. And as we're now the second largest chimney company in the United States. We're maybe in the world.
Wow.
Because the United States has the biggest chimney companies, and we've grown to be one of the best, one of the biggest, from an absolute shit show.
So for the moment you kind of woke up, you had this, and this is like typical, right? We have like this profound event, like this omen, kind of like the Alchemist. You're reading The Alchemist. There's all these signs that you're given, and he really paid attention to these signs, and he shaped his life. And it has for you, like, how long did it take when you were like, woke up to that you actually started putting things into motion where you could start creating that?
That's a great question. It took longer. I hate to, look back on it, but from 2003, I started really growing and hiring and training. I crashed it again in 2007, 2008, when the housing market crashed and everything started crashing. I think that was around the time you had some issues too, if I remember your story, but everybody had issues. And I wasn't a good leader. I had a drug issue inside my company I didn't know about, with employees doing stuff. I did not know my numbers. I wasn't good at marketing. I wanted to be everybody's buddy. And when that marketing rolled back, or when the market rolled back, I crashed it again. And that was 2007, 2008. And then I realized, okay, I'm in business. I'm trying to build a business, but I'm not a very good businessman. I'm not a very good leader. I don't hold people accountable. I don't have good standard operating procedures. I started building it over again. My son was 14. And I said, I'm going to build a world-class business now. I've got to change this. Quick story about that. I remember driving into my business one day, right before I crashed it. I had a piece of crap BMW car, just an old BMW car. Driving up, I had 17 employees, and there was 8 crappy vehicles out in front of my business. And I just was embarrassed as to what I had built. And not only did I not have money, but my people didn't have a good job either. There was 17 employees with 8 cars, so they were riding with each other, driving my trucks home, getting rides to work. And I'm like, what am I building here? Like, this is embarrassing. I'll never be able to drive up in a nice car if they can't have a good life too. And I realized, and then the business crashed on me, and I said, I'm going to build it differently the second time. And so I took a lot of hard lessons from a lot of life. And I changed how people get paid, how much we make, how much they make. It really was an eye opener. You have those eye opener moments when it's not right. You better pay attention, right?
Yeah. It's funny, in EO, we have a thing called lifelines. And usually when you join a forum, you have this experience where you map out your lifelines or highs and lows of your life. And it just really occurred to me that, you fall off the roof, that's the low, right? And then there's this big launch forward, like, oh man, now I'm getting re-engaged. And then the next moment of losing it again, and probably those big step backs, the big obstacles, the big defeats, right? That's the launching pad for the next level of growth.
Totally necessary. Like, you hate it when you're going through it, but everybody looks back on those and goes, gosh, that was the minute I pivoted, I changed, I learned, I woke up, and I sometimes when I'm going, I haven't gone through big ones since then, but you go through little ones. You mentioned, an employee leaving you, or a key person, something going really wrong. And I have those a lot. Unfortunately, you have those setbacks, but the big ones are the lines in the sand, the magic moments that you go, oh, I got to learn from that. I better learn.
Well, what I love about your story, and I'd like to hear this, like, I see people really excel when they go from being, running a great business to teaching how to run a great business.
Right.
And I've seen you do that transition, and that's really propelled you. So when was that moment you were like, I got to give back. I gotta teach?
Another great question. So when I was starting to be, I told this story on stage. I wrote a book about this. It's called Blue Collar Gold, How to Build a Service Business from the Dirt Up. And I named it that book because I remember laying in the dirt and when I fell off that roof and just being probably as low, broken, laying in the dirt at this guy's house. And this is what my life had come to. And once some things started working and some mentors reached out to me and said, hey, you need to look at it this way, do it that way, stop doing this, start doing that. I then started being, moderately successful. And I said, I want to volunteer and help other people. So I started speaking on stage and saying, hey, this is what I did. It's how bad I messed it up. And then people started, they saw themselves in my story. They were like, man, it seemed like you were talking to me when you were talking about how messed up you were. I'm doing the same things. I thought you knew my story. I said, no, it's just how messed up I was. And we all kind of mess up. So then people started saying, well, tell me how you did this. Tell me how you did that. And so I started just volunteering, speaking a lot. And then I started bringing people into my company, showing them what we did. And then I started making a true curriculum out of it. Like, here are the steps. And here's the key. Being super real with people, telling them where their faults are and being very real is the best thing you can do for people. It's not being mean. That's what they need. In fact, they always, when they respond back to me, they say, when you told me this thing, it's like really hard, like this logo sucks, or name of your business is terrible, or get rid of your brother in the job, or your mom is crushing your business. Those are the things that I took away, and I needed to hear that. And I realized that that's truly being kind, is telling somebody the truth.
Yeah.
There's that Kind, Not Nice book, or No, Not Nice, I think is a book.
What's funny is, like, you're telling a story falling off a roof, and you were the guy. And the whole time I was like, oh, that's the same freaking story that I had. I mean, it wasn't a roof, but it was like, it was, I was opening the store and closing the store. Like,
when you told your story at the EO meeting that I was at, I'm like, that's why I connected with you instantly. Cause I'm like, we're talking the same language, maybe a different service or different business, but man, we hit those rocks and, smashed ourselves. And like, what do we do from there?
Yeah. It just kind of a good reminder, how powerful our story is. And probably that story alone is the most valuable thing about Mark. Right. Is that's your selling tool. It's like, that story is like, certainly on every single chimney sweeper's journey is that story.
Yeah. We all are very similar.
Yeah.
How do we connect? How do we learn? How do we help each other? Everybody has to go through the fire and get burned and, be tempered by the fire of business, but having somebody reach back and help me through. And I had a very key mentor at that time was worried about me, and he reached out and he helped me in certain ways that were so critical. And I will always do that for people now.
Now, when you first heard about EO, where were you in your business?
Man, I heard about EO, 8 years before I joined. I kept hearing about it. I didn't know what it was. And I kept seeing these groups of people that were kind of in these groups doing stuff together, but I didn't know what it was. And then the largest chimney company in the United States, the owner of that, they're called Lindemann Chimney out of Chicago. He got on stage and he was talking about how his dad started the business and how he took it from there. But EO was such a critical part of his the guys around him that he talked about it for years. And then my other mentor said I should join. It took me a while. It wasn't until a couple years ago, one of the ladies, Lauren Reed, reached out to me and said, through my daughter. And so it started that journey with them. My hardest thing with EO is the commitment. You got to really be commitments. But yeah, that's how I heard about it. I heard about it way before I joined it. And then that's a great group of people, very much motivated.
How did you change from not having EO in your world to now having it? Like, what would you say how has Mark changed?
Well, it's so funny. The part of EO that's good is the vulnerability of people. And you hear how vulnerable other business owners are, and you realize you're not alone on that. And then also the connection. I thought EO was going to be more of a tactical type of business. Like when I joined, I thought, oh, here's the latest software. Here's the newest trend in, business things to do. And I realized it's not that. There's some of that, but it's more of who we are as people, the struggles we have as entrepreneurs, and who's in your corner. And we go through stuff we can't talk to anybody else about. Who are you going to talk to about it? And so EO is one of those safe, environments to talk about that, and doesn't go anywhere. And you got people that are really bonded to you on a different level.
So tell me maybe a time that you had a difficult decision in your business that you brought to form. Is there a story that you can recall that you got some help or support on that, and it helped you make a decision?
One of the things I can remember that I was helped most with was I had a key employee that was very good, sold a lot of work, but turning poisonous to my company. I call it the curse of my number ones. When they become number one and you've praised them and you've patted them on the back and you've paid them well, and they feel like they're above the rules. They're above everybody else is here. I'm here because you've told me I'm here, and I've proven that I'm here. And I really don't need to have the same rules or respect everybody. It's just a curse. It's so, and it was hard because this person was very valuable to my company. I mean, I needed this person to sell it, very knowledgeable, very amazing at this one thing. But all that was amazing was also poisoning my new leadership, my younger people. Back when I was your age, I could do it, with a hammer and a grinder, in a half a day, and you're taking a week, you know what I mean? Like this vibrato that helped get him there was tearing us apart. And I did come to the group with what that looked like. And there was just a lot of different, everybody does experience shares and how that looks like to them. And then, I hit on just that I had to get rid of that toxicity. I had to put those ultimatums out there and just airing it out. Cause again, this person been with me 12 years. He and his wife worked for me. They were key in my industry. They were a general manager and sales manager. Wow. So this decision would upend us. Yeah. And he also had some very expensive, and he had some leadership inside my company. So if he left, a couple people might leave with him. Like, you've given him all the keys to the castle. You've given him everything, all of them, because you trust them. We did a SWOT analysis in my company, and in that SWOT analysis, one of the threats was this: you got a power couple inside here. And while they're good, they're really good. If they go bad, it's a bomb. And I knew that way before it became a bomb. I knew, but I tried to put some other things in place in case, and we were fine, but man, it was a bomb. And that was EO. I was bringing that to them, talking to them about it. one of the things is you got to get rid of, I won't say his name, but you got to get rid of his name. It became like a chant. He's got to go. He's got to go.
Wow. That's not very Gestalt, is it?
Well, it became, because I would ask to go outside of the Gestalt kind of things and like tactically, and the person just, when somebody becomes poisonous.
And it became a reoccurring issue in all your forums. Like was it a constant discussion?
A few times.
Yeah.
There was that. And then the other thing of when you pay your people really well and you try to make things better and better, that sometimes they get lazier and lazier. Sometimes I'm making it too comfortable. And I don't like that, because that's always the thing. Make the system smoother, pay the people better, be a better place to work. But there's something in the grind of work that makes people bond to it too. When you've taken off all the rough edges, when you smooth it all out, like they lose stickiness. And I'm like, that was a hard thing for me. I've done nothing but try to make it better and better. Back to the story of the cars. I want to make this a great place to work. I want them driving up in nice cars. I want to drive in a nice car. I want to do all these things. And I did them. But did it make them more loyal? And not necessarily. Part of the loyalty is like the Navy SEALs. They've got arguably one of the best cultures, but yeah, one of the hardest work environments you could possibly have. Well, what bonds them? It's the pain. And you do a lot of that with some of your work that you do, is going through something together. And sometimes when you take all the edges off business, it doesn't, they have no stickiness. I don't know how else to explain
Was it ultimately a disconnect with core values?
That's a great point. I think so. In some of it, one of it was respect. We have 4 core values, and 2.9013 is one of our core values, which is the Lasada line. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. 2.9013 is a statistical measurement of how many positive interactions in your business to negative makes for a good work environment. So basically 3 positives to a negative. So we're like, let us focus on the positives. And then that gives you a great work environment. And 6 positives to a negative was a world-class work environment. So how can we focus on that? Well, you get poison in there, and there are more negatives to the positives. And so core value there. And the other one was respect. Start to be disrespectful in front of other people. And that never flies well with me.
So what made the decision for you in that?
Well, when I brought in someone above them, between me and the general manager, I brought in a chief operations officer. When I brought in that guy to take us from 5 million to, he'd run $30 million companies. How do we go from 5 to 30? Well, he comes in, he starts throwing levers forward, and the people that were there, they didn't like it. They felt that person was my right-hand person, and now they're not the right-hand person. I felt this disconnect. And the final thing was, I was going to send my general manager to some executive coaching and courses. I'm like, look, we got to move everybody's level up. We've got to go to this next level. Please go to this. And she said, no, I'm done. I liked it better when we were 3 million. I'm not in for going to 10 million, which in the world of millions can be a lot or it can be nothing. But in our world, it was, I'm going to 30 million. What's that look like? I'm at 5. I'm stuck at 5. It's good life, but there's a lot more to do. She's like, I'm not into it. That was it. And I also realized when people start saying that I liked it better back then, it's a key. I have just gotten a checkbox that they are pretty much done growing. When we were 5 and they liked it better at 3, or we're at 3 and they liked it better at 1, or whatever it was, they liked it better back then. They've just gave me a warning sign that they're pretty much done with their expansion.
Was the breakup as scary as what you had made it out to be?
Well, they started a competing business like 5 blocks away, tried to take my guys. It wasn't scary. They took some things with them I didn't realize, a lot of my structures and things that were kind of little corporate stealing kind of stuff. That was bad. Passwords and things, non-compete clauses for taking, there's a little bit of that. But we got through a fine. And you know how it is. You break up and everybody's like, man, I'm glad they're gone. Now I can tell you the truth.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, it wasn't as bad. It was actually good for us. But
yeah. So how do you navigate going forward in those kind of, are you more aware of those types of people or more aware of signs before you fall into that?
Definitely more aware. You can see the signs. Also, I learned a lot. So nobody can have, you put all of your, corporate stuff in a place, the passwords, where do we get this? Who do we buy from? The relationships, all the things. We have a place for all that to be, and it's got to be updated. Also make it less, I can't put up with, when toxicity starts to come in, I've got to react faster. It's easy to let it go and hope that it'll get better. And I got to address it right now. I think of it like I used to train dogs when I was a kid, show dogs in 4-H. We did show dogs. So one of the things to train a dog was on a leash, when it starts to not pay attention or do something, you have a real quick little jerk. It's a little jerk. It's a little, pay attention, pop, pop. And you don't let the dog run out 30 feet on it and just jerk it back. Say, what are you doing? Like, why'd you do that? It's very little quick correctiveness. And I take that to where now when I see something, I'm very quick to correct it, like quick, like, don't do that. Stop doing that. Why? I try not to let things build up at all. And that's helped me identify and get things out. I would never put up with this stuff as long as I did before.
Yeah, I was the put up guy for a while and then the blow up.
Yeah.
And then you look like a crazy man.
Right.
Yeah, but
because there's been
you let him get away with it. Yeah, I've totally felt that. I'm curious, this old Mark and new Mark now in EO and navigating that. What are some tips you would tell a new EO member how to get the best out of their EO experience?
Well, I think that it is about your group and your forum, and it is about connecting with them. We become really good friends, like super good friends. My friend that's been in EO for 30 years, they would meet whether in the EO or not. And I think part of that, is the friendship of the people. And then I always wanted to know more about everybody's business in, personal outside of it. And I think that's helpful if we go visit each other's businesses and know who we are. And then in EO, probably the most valuable thing got out of it too was all of this, at the time, a lot of Zoom calls that we were having and all of the outside activities where you would go and see speakers and see panels and watch other people work on the big forum, not just your small forum, but on the big level. EO has the world-class speakers and business leaders and authors and just people doing amazing things. And I'm always inspired by watching somebody in their element talk about it, and so that's always, that's one of my favorite things is just all the outside stuff that they do. Mm-hmm.
So in EO, just like your business, you have core values and EO has core values. I'm going to read off 4 of the core values and I read them off as a reminder for all of us to be aware of these. And I'm wondering which core value you most relate to. So
sure.
First one is trust and respect, thirst for learning, think big, be bold, and together we grow. Which one resonates with you the most?
It is a together we grow thing. Right? I love all those, but together we grow is, once I hit a certain level of business, it really was it wasn't about me at all. And realizing, that we have to have each other to really do something big. I feel it's more rewarding. Together we grow has the best. A friend of mine just sold, he had a garage door company, very big garage door company, is sold to private equity recently. And he made 13 of his closest people millionaires that day when he sold it. It was big. Well, I love that. How do we reward each other for the time and the put in and the things that And I love seeing people, like I just did a survey on my company last week, which was, just internal survey. And I love seeing what they want. I love seeing where they want to travel to and what development do they feel like they need. And then, some of the surveys kind of rough too about management and where we're going and what you think.
Doesn't feel good, does it?
It doesn't feel very good. Like some of it.
But that's where they are.
It's where they are. I got to meet them where they are. If they're willing to be here, and we've got 100 and some employees. It gets hard to, get with everybody. If I spent 5 minutes a day, you'd have no day left. So it's sometimes that's hard, but together we grow. I have a chocolate business with my daughter and I love seeing that grow. We have a metal fabrication company and I've got a powder coat company and I've got an online training company and we're training thousands of chimney people across the US. And I've got a lot of businesses that it's really all about how to get more people involved and build their lives up. And through that, my life gets better, And I'll tell you one thing, you asked something about when you felt love, before we were starting the podcast. I spoke at an event one time and they had these little notepads that they were called fist bumps. Have you ever seen them?
Mm-mm.
It's just got a fist bump on there like that. And it's a pad. And you look around the room and you write, hey man, I want to just give you, thank you for something. I want to give you a fist bump for doing something for me or something I'm recognizing in you. And I had spoke at this event and, they said, okay, we're going to do it. And it was later in the day, everybody's doing their fist bump exercise. They leave you a pad. And we wrote it down and man, I got a stack of them. And man, as I read them, I started crying. That's, the things that they had appreciated that I'd done or said or been part of. And man, I really felt like I was making a difference in people's lives, like people had made in my life.
I felt that. And I feel probably a little ounce of your purpose is to inspire someone to make a declaration or decision to get more deeply involved in their business in a different way.
I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know how much time we have, but it was when my mom was into transcendental meditation when I was a kid. She was very into TM. We went to the Maharishi and we got our...
You did all that stuff.
We got our mantras.
That's a good moment in your life, though, probably.
Well, I didn't know it. My mom was way into it. I'm 12 years old. Okay. She was into, spiritual things. She, we had psychics and we had, everybody coming around the house. She was an accountant, but she had all these people around her. I was a wrestler and she would go into full meditation at the top of the gym when I was wrestling. She'd go meditate and everybody's like, what's your mom doing? Like, she's meditating, but then we brought this psychic over. And again, I can't tell you how much I believe in, but I can tell how much it affected me. She said, I'm an old soul. That I am an old soul. And she's talking to a 12-year-old little boy. She said, you're an old soul. And if you believe in reincarnation, this is your last time around. And in her world, you have to keep being reincarnated until you get it right. And then you can move on.
Get all the lessons.
You get all the lessons. She said, you're an old soul. It's your last time on earth. It's your last time around. And you're here to help your mom first. And then you're here to help others. That's your whole reason to be here. Whether you believe it or not, telling me that at that time, I never forgot it. And I've always just had it in the back of my mind that that's why I'm here. Whatever it takes. How can I help? What can I do? The answer is yes. Now what's the question? Wow. Let me figure that out. And that's been, that feels like that's why I'm here.
Wow. It almost made me tear up there. I could feel that from you that to wake you up so early.
Yeah.
And the thought that I think about my kids, I got 11 and 15-year-old, that it's possible to wake someone up so early. Because I would assume that 12-year-old would be like,
Well, and maybe at that day she told me that, I'm like, whatever. But man, it's stuck. It was in there. It planted a little bitty seed. And now at 56, that's a full-on tree in my brain. That's all I can think about. Every single day, I'm on the phone. I got calls right after this, 30-minute calls. I don't charge for them. How can I help you? And people, and I also, a lot of people are like, man, you're on the phone. You're talking to people all the time. I'm like, well, it's better than the alternative. Nobody's calling. Nobody wants my advice. I'm irrelevant. I walk around these things and I can't hardly walk anywhere because people know me. I love that. I don't know if it's just an ego thing or I truly pouring into people is where I get my energy.
Well, I'll tell people all the time, and this is something I'm just now discovering, in that when you're in that purpose, time doesn't exist.
That's right.
It's just like time is irrelevant.
That's right.
You're like almost dizzy. You're in your flow, and I think that's heaven on earth. I think it's all we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And that actually does exist, and it is purpose. When you are in purpose, that's the feeling. And then if you can find more ways to do that, then that's how you adjust time.
That's interesting.
And you can live longer because you're not worried about the future, because time doesn't exist. It's not even a thing.
That's so interesting. That's true. And I feel the older I get, the more that I really can see it. And just, it is what I do every day. And I think about it and I want to do it. And it gives me energy.
Mark, awesome. Thanks for coming on the Decision podcast by EO Nashville. If you are an entrepreneur here in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're looking to find a place that you are not alone and you could be around other driven entrepreneurs, there's 350 plus of us, the largest chapter in the United States. You can visit us. You can come to an event and see if we are a fit for you. You can visit us at eonashville.com. and hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.